Howdy! Today we'll be doing some basic Java programming, putting together a fairly simple Bukkit plugin for a Minecraft server. Something to note, I am a Python and JavaScript developer, so if you Java Jazz cats out there who know a bit more than me, notice I'm doing something wrong, go ahead and leave me a comment or shoot me a message. Okay, first things first, this is the Bukkit API. This is basically a collection of information detailing what classes and methods do inside of the Bukkit server mod. This is a very important resource that should have open when developing any Bukkit plugin. Now, you can find this by simply Googling Bukkit API. It should bring you to the latest version. Now, the first thing you want to download is from spigotmc.org, spigotmc.org. Go to the Downloads tab and click on Spigot/Build Tools. There will be a very simple, very short tutorial showing you how to install Bukkit and build tools and all that jazz that's needed for development and running a Bukkit server. Secondly, you want to install Eclipse. It's a basic Java IDE. It's great for developing plugins in. So you can see I've got my own jazz kind of up and going here. So don't worry too much about that. Once you have Eclipse installed, go ahead and let's start a new project. You'll hit File, New, Java Project. You can name this whatever you want. We'll just name it Tutorial. Hit Finish. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is right-click on your project, go down to Build Path and Configure Build Path. Now what we're doing is under Libraries, the Libraries tab, we'll hit External Jar. We'll go ahead and import that Spigot jar. This is a folder that should look familiar to you if you actually set up build tools and all that jazz correctly. So we'll go ahead and open Spigot jar and we'll hit apply and import that. So now if we go to our project, you'll notice we'll have a reference libraries folder here, and there's that Spigot jar. So now we can use all the classes and everything available to us through that Spigot Bukkit server mod. Next thing you want to do is right click on your source folder. We'll go ahead and start a new package. Now the name of this package can correspond to a website if you have one, or for example like a GitHub pages or something like that. If you don't have a website, that's fine. You could type something like me.staticcoffee or whatever your username is, .name of the plugin, which will be tutorial. If you do have a website, for example, if it's google.com, I believe this is due to the way Java compiles things, but you want to go ahead and type that backwards. So if your website's google.com, you type com.google.nameapackage. Or if you have a GitHub page, io.github.your-username. So we'll just go ahead and do me.myusername.nameapackage, which is tutorial. Great. Now let's create a first class. This is where we'll be coding. So I always like to name this main class, and you should name this main class after the name of your plugin. So this is tutorial for us. Now as you will notice, the class name is tutorial, and that always has to match the file name. So class name tutorial, file name tutorial. Or if this was named my plugin, it would be myplugin.java, and so on. And being that Java is an object-oriented programming language, everything we code should be inside of classes. Now, the first thing we want to do here is extends Java plugin. Now, that's bringing some information from the bukkit.org .java or excuse me, .plugin.java. It's bringing in this class, and that allows us to use some of the methods used for Java plugins. For example, if we type override to override some of the, I believe it's something along superclass methods. I may be using terminology wrong, but it's overriding some of the basic methods of the Java plugin class. Type our first method, excuse me, and it's on enable. Now, assuming you guys are fairly unfamiliar with Java in general, or maybe even programming in general, a method is methods and functions are basically the same thing, and they can be used fairly interchangeably. Function is basically just a collection of code that processes certain code and returns a value, or doesn't return a value. Maybe it just processes certain information. If that function is inside of a class, like it is in Java, it's named a method. So functions and methods are the same thing, except methods are just inside of classes. Now, like I said, each method usually returns something, and if it doesn't, we type that. So I don't mean typing as in like typing on a keyboard. I mean you have to say what kind of type of method or variable or anything else is in Java. So if this method wanted to return true or false, that would be a Boolean value, and we would have to say return true or false. We'd have to return this type right here. Or this could be an int. If we want to return a basic number, we return 5 or anything else. That would be a proper way to return an int in an int method. Public means that it's available to this class and other classes, though most likely you will not be using onEnable ever outside of the main class. Void basically just means we're not returning anything. So we're just using this method to process some information at the startup of our plugin. Being that this plugin is very small, we won't really be processing information, but it's good to have that there as a placeholder for the future. We'll override a second method and name this one. Now this is a public Boolean, and it's named onCommand. Now this is where your Java plugin will take any input from a user, and based on that input return true or false, and do some other stuff on the side. So obviously we haven't returned anything, so let's go ahead and return false, and onCommand actually takes some arguments with it. Basically what that means is when you call onCommand, you say, hey, onCommand, get over here, do some stuff. You know, when a player types some input, you have to call some friends along with it. Well, the first friend is command sender. That identifies who sent the command. So as you notice, I type command sender. Basically what I'm doing is I'm identifying what kind of object sender should be, and sender is just the name of it. So I'm creating a copy of this class, so to speak. In the same way, and like I was mentioning, typing, right? You have to type everything. So if I wanted to create the name of a person, the type of that would probably be a string, and that would be the correct way to go about it. So I'm saying string, and then naming that string, which is just name. So I'm declaring command sender, and I'm naming it sender. Now we're going to do that same thing with the command class, which is actually the command that was inputted into the Minecraft text field. Now, something cool that Eclipse does is it auto imports, or rather shows you the imports for unreferenced unreferenced types. So being that we have the Spigot jar imported, Eclipse is aware of all of its classes and will guess for us if it's unsure on the type of object or class we're trying to import. The next argument is string label. You can name, again, you can name these whatever. Like I said, it's just the name we're using for this class. So command sender could be clown if you want to, or whatever. These are the standard naming conventions for these. Now the last argument is named string brackets args, and basically what that does is it brings in any arguments with the main command. So if our main command for this will be tutorial, an argument of that would be maybe help, and that would correspond to args 0. So if a player typed in tutorial help, the command would be /tutorial, and if we were to print the first argument through like maybe a player.sendMessage command, it would print help. Now in programming, lists and arrays and all of that stuff starts from the index 0. It doesn't start from 1. So we're counting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So to us, the first argument would be argument 0. I hope that's making sense for you guys. Alright, so before we start anything else, we want to declare who the sender of this command is. So we do that by importing the player class from Bukkit, which of course is the in-game player. Oops. And we'll do something called a cast. And basically we're casting a certain class onto another to correspond their information. So as you can see here, Clips is kind of funny sometimes and won't pull up that little help box. You just gotta click around and hover sometimes. So to cast, we'll put the player object in parentheses and we'll cast it to our sender object or our command sender. So now this is noting that the person who sent the command is the player. Great. So we'll set up our first command. This will be an if statement. So we're checking for a certain condition, and if that's met, do something. So if command dot get name, the name of the command, dot equals ignore case, which is basically ignoring whether some of it's uppercase or all of it's all caps or whatever. Doesn't matter when you have this set up. It just reads to strictly lowercase. So if they type /tutorial, let's send them a message. You can just say player.send message, and we can say maybe you did it. Great. And if you want some of those fancy chat colors you see around, it's actually just chat color dot the name of the color. Now, as you can see, there's two different ways to import this. I would recommend through just standardizing of your imports to import it from org.bukkit. Bungie is kind of a different interface from what I understand. But anyway, and since this is a Boolean, we need to return true. So if they type some made up command, it returns false. If they type the correct command, return true. Great. Now the last method I want to mention is the on disable. Now, like the on enable, this just processes information, but when the plugin is being disabled instead of being enabled. Since we don't have any information to process, that's pretty much it. The last thing we need to do is right click on your package and we'll create a new file. Now this is this file is named plugin.yml. And this allows Bukkit to kind of read in our plugin. Now, if we come over here, this is the one for mine, or my personal plugin, but we'll use it as a template. So main is the name of your package plus the name of your main class. So if we come down to source, you can see it's me.static coffee.tutorial, and then the name of our main class, which is tutorial. This is just the version, so we have our first version and the name of your plugin, which of course for us is tutorial. Now the second line are your commands. Tutorial, maybe I can spell that right. Alright, so basically you just need to list your base command here, and it'll recognize it. So tutorial, now in YML files, these are not tabbed. These are spaced out 2 to 4 spaces. So make sure you're using spaces or it will break the YML file. Now this last one is permissions. If you want to set up permissions, as you can see, I just had a basic permission set up and it defaults to op having it. We'll explore that a little more in the future. Anyway, that's the plugin. So let's go ahead and export it. Right click on your project, export under Java, jar file, and then save it to a location. See a little checkbox up there? Just hit finish. Great. So now you'll go to the folder in which you're hosting your server, drag and drop that jar file into your plugins folder, and reload your plugins. Now, as you can see, I have mine set up through a server host, but it's still the same concept. This is my desktop. I'm grabbing the jar. So you can see this is my plugins folder, and we'll just go ahead and drag and drop. Great. So now if we come to Minecraft, as you can see here, we'll just go ahead and type /reload, and as you can tell by the amount of errors that just popped up, that's not the best way to do it. I would actually recommend restarting the server because this can break a lot of stuff. But oh well. Now we'll type tutorial. Look at that. Oh, we got our message. You did it. Great. So that's the first plugin. I hope you guys enjoyed, or the first video in the series for a plugin. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this was slightly beneficial to anyone watching. We'll explore some more advanced concepts in later episodes. Thanks again. See ya.